I look like hell. I've just got up, but it's lovely and sunny out. I'm a bit early. I'm about 5 days too early to be filming this, but the weather this September has been horrendous. The other day, it's gone from boiling hot to me wearing a winter coat and a woolly scarf. You cannot predict it. So while it's nice and sunny, I'm going to film my garden collab for this month, September. So there's only one more left this year, can you believe it? I was a bit worried because of the bad weather that I wouldn't have a lot to show you. But I've decided to do this video a bit different to how I normally do it because I'm feeling, it's just how I'm feeling. So I apologise if you don't like it. I'm not going to do it different normally, it's just how I'm feeling. So the only things I've needed to do really, which you'll see in a minute, is tie up my tomatoes. I've got some tomatoes growing. It's probably too late, but my mum said tie them up, let them get some sun. So I'm going to try and tie them up, but a lot of them tomato plants is just nonsense. There's hardly, you know, I could probably cut a lot of it back. Bank up my leeks with muck. I've not been using that till the pot. More strawberry runners to pull off. There's so many strawberry runners. And weed a bit and pick up the kids' rubbish from all over the garden. They're my jobs. The eagle-eyed of you will see that Pudge, my nearly 14-year-old, has moved all these herbs outside because the ones that were growing outside were doing better. And they're on top of chicken house with the strawberry runners I've saved, which you'll see in a minute. And one of my sweet banana peppers is red, so I'm going to eat that today and save the seeds out of it. And the eagle-eyed of you will notice that the pool, hey, are you paying 1 minute up? That the pool's down. It's not away, it's down, but it's not away yet. And today I'm going to say to the husband, are you going to put that pool away? Or am I going to have to divorce you? What else? I can't remember what else. I know, though, I know. He's not up yet, sweetheart. 1 minute, and sorry, I'm totally off thing now. Oh yeah, the gardening collab runs from March to October every year. It's hosted by me and Maria from the Richardsons Simple Living. I'll link her channel below, and I'll link any other channels involved. I think you just 1 minute. It's early in the morning, we're already at it. What was I saying? Oh, Lisa Ann Spencer's really good. She normally takes part. Sometimes we get somebody else as well, sometimes we don't. So if you want to take part, feel free. Just contact me or Maria from Richardsons Simple Living, or Lisa Ann Spencer. I'm sure she wouldn't mind pointing in the right direction. And I'll link all the other channels below, so yeah. When I was little, I was very fortunate to grow up in a house with a really big garden. And when we weren't at the house, we were staying in our trailer in Skegness, and there was just wide open spaces, and it was just lovely. And then when me and my husband got married, we moved into a flat that had a shared yard, and I never used the yard because when we moved in, I tried to peg my work uniform out, and the lady in the shop, who was normally very reasonable, didn't like me using the yard. So we had no outdoor space at all when we first got married, and it didn't bother me that much, to be honest, because we was dealing with infertility at the time, and you know, we had higher things to worry about, like would we ever have children. Our first house, when our oldest was a baby, had a gravel yard, and it was, I just didn't like it at all. Having a child just made me realise that a garden was important to me, but there was not a lot we could do about it at the time. And we had bigger problems with the house being full of damp and none of the walls being dry and all that lot. And then the second house we moved into had a tiny garden, but it was a garden, and you couldn't plant anything because if you dug like so many inches down, it was just, you just hit rubble. So that's when we got our allotment. So it never bothered me having a tiny garden because there was enough room for the kids' trampoline and for them to play. And there was a bit of communal green space on the front of the house, and we had our allotment. And then when we come to move here, I don't like the house. I've never liked the house. I'll tell you that now. Me and Carol, who I work with, came to have a nosy at the house before we got the keys. and the actual house was locked, so we couldn't go inside. We could only look through the front window. But then we went round the side of the house and the gate wasn't locked, and we opened it and we saw this big garden. I was just at the garden. Love the garden, and I've loved it ever since. We're looking at moving. I don't know if it's going to happen next month or next year, but we're looking at moving. We've been trying to move for a while, but I've not really hammered trying to move, because every time I bid on the council will only let me bid on 4-bedroomed houses, even though we're in a 3-bed, and every time I bid on anything I'm over 20 in the queue. But I'm kind of used to the disappointment, and you know, I can make the house work for now, and I love the garden, so we could put up with it. But I can't talk about it here yet for legal reasons, but it's all on my Patreon. There's a couple of really evil, vindictive people around here who are trying to ruin our lives. There's going to be a court date. I'm waiting for a court date and see what happens, and see if there is any sense of justice in this country judicial system, but I doubt it. I could kind of put up with, sometimes I feel like I'm going to break, but I can kind of put up with the vindictive people. My husband's not well, and his mental health just can't take it, and I've got to think about the children. So we're going to throw everything we can at the council to try and get a council house, because private rents are ridiculous. But if we can't get anything, we're going to have to just go private rent. I've been looking at private rent houses, and the rent is at least double of what we're paying here. And then the garden's like a yard. I found one last night that was near my mum's, because none of our family live around here now either. That's the other reason we need to go. There was one near my mum's, and it was more money than here. It was about £300 a month more than here, but it wasn't as bad as some of the houses prices have been. And the garden was just a yard, and I need a bit of grass for the kids. I understand that, you know, I'm very lucky to have this garden. There's room to grow vegetables, there's room for a chicken coop, there's room for a trampoline, the pool. There's still extra room for them to put their tent up in summer. It's just a wonderful, wonderful garden. And I realise that I'll probably never be able to afford, unless we can get a council house, which is not looking remotely likely, I'll never be able to afford this kind of garden again. But the kids do need a bit of grass. So I know I'm going to have to compromise a lot to move, but I need to draw the line at a yard. And I was thinking, if we're going to end up with a much smaller garden, the kids having space takes priority over me having a mini allotment. But I was thinking of ways I can grow things on a smaller scale, you know, like hanging baskets and things hanging from the fences and stuff. So stay tuned for that. I might be gardening in a micro garden or something like that. But it just made me think, you know, this garden's just the sort of garden I always dreamt of. With the chickens and the garden, and everything's messy and everything's sort of, you know, overgrown and a bit wild, and there's room for all the animals and all the kids' toys all over the place, and my daughters swing while I'm doing the garden, and first thing in the morning I can come out and see the chickens and weed the garden and do the jobs that need to be done and hear the birds singing in the trees. I know why I'm crying. Oh, it just shows how much the garden means to me. That's the big issue that's making me wonder if it's the right thing moving or not, or if we should stay and fight. Because the children, they are settled here and they have friends here, but there's buses and kids clubs or whatever, wherever you go, and it'll be better for the kids if the parents aren't strung out, and it'll be better for the kids if we're near our extended family. So I'm not too worried about the kids. They'll adapt and they'll cope, and everything will be alright. But I will miss my garden. It's just sad, isn't it, that gardens are sort of out of fashion now and they're not a given. And, you know, a large garden's either for the very lucky, which I've been, or for the rich. Anyway, I'm sorry. But it just makes you think we're so lucky to have outside spaces. But I was thinking if we do go, I'm going to have to order a skip. And the baths are going to have to go in a skip. I could take the raised beds with me because they fold up. It's just whether there'll be room in the new place. The chicken coop, we'll have to take it apart and make a smaller one out of the wood. Trampoline's on its way out anyway, so we'll have to have the scrap man. And we'll have to sell that climbing frame. It's just a lot to think and consider. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. If you hear the gardening collab, I'll see you next month. If you're here anyway, I'll see you soon. Look in the description box below for the links to the other channels. And we're not really reinforced.